Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're taking what looks like a super dense theological deep dive and turning it into an epic historical narrative. We are going to be talking about cosmic rebellion, overlapping dimensions, and a massive ongoing campaign of territorial reclamation. It is literally a whole new way to look at the world around you.
So let's start right here with this incredibly famous verse from the Apostle Paul. It's one you've likely heard 1,000 times, maybe read it on a bumper sticker or seen it on a coffee mug. But here's the thing, it's also a verse we have probably completely misunderstood.
See, we tend to use this verse as a kind of slogan for an inward moral conflict, right? It's almost a way to dignify a really bad day at the office or just the ordinary frictions of daily life, making them feel deeply spiritual. But actually, scratch that. When we restore Paul's precise Greek vocabulary to its ancient context, that domesticated modern reading completely neuters what he's actually saying. He is describing a concrete struggle against real, highly organized, hostile spiritual powers who hold and contest literal territory.
And you know, once you realize this isn't just some poetic metaphor for personal temptation, it brings up a massive question that shifts our entire perspective. If they aren't just vague symbols of evil, who exactly are the rulers and authorities of this present darkness? Well, here is the epic historical roadmap we're going to follow today to find the real answer to that question. We'll look at the real cosmic enemy, the map of Babel, victory at the cross, outposts of the kingdom, redefining spiritual warfare, and finally, the renewed creation.
Let's dive into Section 1, the real cosmic enemy, a vocabulary of rulership.
To really understand the enemy, we need to look at the incredibly precise Greek term Paul uses here, kosmokrator. It's a massive word, and he only uses it once in the entire New Testament. In the wider ancient world, this was actually an epithet used for deities and heavenly bodies that were regarded as world-governing powers. So Paul absolutely isn't talking about human politicians or earthly magistrates here. He's deliberately using contemporary vocabulary for hostile, unseen spirits that actually rule over geographical areas.
But before we get completely carried away, the biblical text firmly grounds us. It establishes that the enemy is real, and yes, it's governmental, but it firmly restrains us from building out these highly detailed taxonomies or complex organizational charts of named spirits. We are given the absolute reality of the war, but we aren't given a magical field guide to demons, That restraint is intentional.
All right, moving to Section 2, the map of Babel, the Old Testament substructure.
To truly understand how these spiritual powers got their authority in the first place, we have to rewind and trace the cosmic geography of the Old Testament. Babel wasn't just a story about God confusing languages over a really tall tower. According to Deuteronomy 32, it was a massive act of cosmic judgment. God basically disinherited the nations, handing them over to the jurisdiction of lesser spiritual beings. But as Psalm 82 reveals, those rulers rebelled. They became corrupt and unjust, which sets up the grand anticipation of the entire Bible, God promising to one day step in and inherit all those nations back.
So here is the absolute crucial point to take away from this. Believers and these hostile powers currently occupy the exact same space. The visible, physical world we inhabit interpenetrates and completely overlaps with the unseen realm that Paul calls the heavenly places and the air. These aren't galaxies far, far away. This struggle is happening right here, right now, in a shared, overlapping dimension.
Which brings us to the center of gravity in Section 3, victory at the cross, the decisive climax.
Look at the flawless, unbroken logic Paul lays out in his letter to the Colossians for how this cosmic crisis is handled. Step 1, Jesus canceled the record of debt, literally nailing the legal demands against humanity to the cross. Step 2, because that debt is totally paid, the spiritual rulers who held those nations captive completely lose their legal claim. They are publicly disarmed. And step 3, the victor ascends right past them, far above the heavens, in absolute triumph, specifically to equip his church. Next up, Section 4, Outposts of the Kingdom, the ongoing campaign.
So, if the war is won in principle at the cross, we need to look at what the church is actually supposed to be doing right now. And it's brilliant. The New Testament event of Pentecost is the ultimate tactical reversal of Babel. At Babel, humanity was scattered, languages were confused, and nations were handed over to corrupted powers. But at Pentecost, humanity is gathered, the language curse is entirely reversed, and the Spirit empowers believers to actively go out and reclaim the territory that was lost thousands of years ago.
This framework completely raises the stakes of our faith.
A local congregation isn't just a weekend social club. It's a governing outpost planted directly in occupied territory. It makes everyday rituals profoundly radical. Baptism, for instance, it's not just a nice symbol. It's a public loyalty oath. It is a literal declaration of allegiance where you are explicitly renouncing displacer spiritual powers and joining an invading kingdom.
Let's look at Section 5, redefining spiritual warfare. Allegiance, not technique.
With this massive cosmic scope in mind, the famous armor of God from Ephesians 6 looks completely different, doesn't it? The most fascinating thing about this armor, truth, righteousness, peace, faith, salvation, is actually what's missing. These are not specialized magical techniques for hunting down specific demons. They aren't procedural combat manuals. They are simply the very realities of the gospel itself.
So spiritual warfare is really just about allegiance. We are holding ground in the strength of a finished work. The genuinely offensive front of this campaign isn't about trying to map out demonic hierarchies. It's about holding contested ground and proclaiming the gospel of peace. By doing that, you are actively rolling back the enemy's territory one person at a time. It's incredible.
And finally, Section 6, the renewed creation, the eschatological horizon.
We have reached the end game here. Paul drops this jaw-dropping eschatological twist, meaning a revelation about the ultimate end of time, in his letter to the Corinthians. He casually writes, "Do you not know that we are to judge angels?" There is no way around this. We aren't just fighting these corrupted spiritual beings in the present. Humanity is destined to replace them. A redeemed humanity will actually take their governing seats over a renewed physical creation.
I want to leave you with this really provocative thought to sum up our explainer today. If your ultimate destiny is to take the governing seats of displaced cosmic powers and to literally rule in a renewed creation alongside the rightful king, how does that completely transform your daily struggles? How does knowing your specific role in this kind of cosmic true crime story change the way you wake up and live your life tomorrow? Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this incredible narrative. Keep exploring, and I'll see you in the next one.